Reddit by Reddit recap. Males of Reddit. What is the craziest reaction you've had when you said no thanks? I don't want to have sex. I literally had to install a lock on my bedroom door, and the first night I locked it she battled it for like 4 hours and was screaming, "Open the goddamn door and I'm not going to rape you." Door stayed locked. Oh my god, are you gay? No, I just don't want to have sex with you. Had been working at a new bar for a couple of months. One of the waitresses who had a rep for sleeping with new doormen gets hammered and can't drive home. I take her home, walk her into her house, put her on the couch and put a blanket over here. As I'm leaning down putting the blanket over her, she grabs my shirt and tries pulling me down to kiss her. I tell her she's drunk, so no thanks. And then she proceeds to tell everyone at work I'm gay for the next 6 months, because I wouldn't take advantage of her while she was drunk. She had a half crying half angry crisis. Kept asking if it was something she did or if there was someone else or if I was sick, and ranting about how no guy says no to sex. You're mad about something. All I could think the whole time is, I have to never, ever react like this if someone tells me they don't want to have sex. This is just embarrassing. In college. Had a few trysts that ended badly. Decided to take it slow on the next one. Hung out with a girl one Saturday while we were both pretty drunk. Made out on my bed. She started taking her clothes off and I said, "Not yet." She screamed at me. She said that I basically told her that she was hideous. She never talked to me again. Spread rumors that I was gay. Every time I would meet a new woman, she would meet with them privately and lie about me. Didn't really have much luck with ladies the rest of college. On our date, she had gotten drunk while I had stayed sober. When I got her back to her place, she wanted to do it, but I don't roll that way. She got pretty upset and said I have to do her, along with some other fairly presumptive things, and she was incredibly persistent. I eventually got her to accept that it wasn't happening that night, and I got her to go to bed. Not that crazy in the grand scheme of things. She and I ended up dating for a year or so, and she was generally a very kind and caring person. Me and my girlfriend broke up mutually. I woke up around 4 in the morning to her in my clothes and bed with me begging to have sex. I say no. Then she proceeds to drunkenly puke all over my possessions. 1 out of 10 never do again. Went over to a girl's place and we were watching a movie when we started making out and were almost about to do it. When I realized all the psychotic behavior she had displayed in trying hard to not even meet me initially, and knew this would just end up being worse. So I said, "Nah, I'm good. This doesn't feel right," and left. A day later, she sends me a hey text calling me an asshole and saying I was begging to meet and this is why I was single and would go through life doing nothing but playing video games. Yeah, okay, lady. You spent most of the time we spoke saying no to even a coffee date, and now suddenly I am at fault. My friends, when they suggest I use Tinder to get a hookup, they believe that to hook up will solve all of my problems. Telling them that I'm not interested, they really tend to freak out to the point of almost causing a scene. I think I need new friends. So I don't know what was up with this girl, but she wanted in my pants probably more than was healthy. I turned her down on several occasions and usually she accepted it with grace and composure. I never ended up having sex with her, and one day when I was propositioned by her she just freaked out, and what went from a weird friendship turned into a full out bitch fest on me, her saying that I was leading her on this whole time, making her think I wanted to date her, keeping her out of the dating world, and basically just being a dong. I was later explained by one of our mutual friends that she apparently thought that I was being nice to her because I liked her, and that I teamed with her online because I wanted to go on dates with her. Turned out she had this whole relationship fantasy about us that was never real, and I was oblivious to it the whole time. She started pouting and said, "Fine, then I'm going to stop sending you pictures and talking dirty to you." I said that's probably a good idea. I don't think your boyfriend would like you doing that anyway. Now can we please just watch Flubber? Or he'll go home. You're cool. After seeing I was annoyed, she tried the "I'm sorry" route and started trying to cuddle up and undo my belt again. I said apparently we couldn't be friends and went home. and finished watching Flubber alone. I was seeing a girl off and on, and she texted and wanted me to come over and then go grab a drink. I drove over to her apartment, and when she opened the door she was falling over drunk. I went in and poured myself a drink and sat on the couch. She sat right beside me and put her hands all over me and under my shirt, slurring and talking super close. Her teeth stained grey by the red wine. I just was really put off by it. I told her I didn't feel like having sex, and she blew up crying and got angry and mean, saying that men can never say no and how can you do this to me? I calmed her down and told her I wanted to go home and just wasn't in the mood for this, or drinking in general. She asked me to take her to the bar, so I dropped her off. She was usually a pretty respectable person. I didn't judge her harshly. Drinking can make people irrational and emotional. I've had a glass of vodka poured on me and told that I was an ass for leading her on. I didn't lead her on. I was having normal conversation with her. She was drunk and I wasn't. Short story. I got hit with crowbar. Long story. She said okay. We walked back to my place. I guess she was still thinking it might happen there, not at hers. A loony came charging out of his house screaming about us throwing snowballs at his door. We hadn't, and whacked me with a crowbar in the ribs. She stopped him before he hit me again, don't really remember how, and just then the police he'd already called turned up. Got me to hospital. 2 broken ribs, 1 cracked, 1 collapsed lung. Girlfriend did say, when she visited me next day, it was all my own fault for not staying and fricking her. What? Do you think you're better than me? Yelled at me, in public. The craziest reactions would be them not taking no for an answer, and persistently kept asking, thinking that would wear me down. And honestly, they did wear me down. You think I'm ugly so I'm going to kill myself? No. I'm exhausted from your texts fighting with me while I'm at work, doing work at work, dealing with you being sad, because I want 20 minutes to myself and your previous half dozen suicide threats today. I got a 45-minute lecture about how that makes her feel terrible about her body and how I'm basically emotionally abusing her by not wanting to have sex with her. We're no longer together, thankfully. In our 20s, me and my friends liked to hit up this local dive bar. Drinks were poured strong and cheap, decent beer selection, and not crowded at all. Since it was a bit divey, we were usually the youngest by a generation. This one night some old woman that was either experimenting with the wet hair look, or was getting her wet every 10 minutes, not entirely sure, took a drunken liking to me. After I refused her a few times, she say something like, if you don't loosen up you'll be a virgin forever, pulls her shirt up to flash me as a look what you're missing I guess, and storms off. Bartender poured me a free one, so I got a beer out of it at least. I've done this multiple times. Sometimes I'm just not feeling it at the time or with that person. Every time though, girls are absolutely baffled. It's like you're challenging some sort of self-evident truth. They start looking at you as confused, as if you said you truly believe the earth is flat and the moon landing was faked. At first, they don't believe you, then they think there's something wrong with them, then they get angry at you, then they still don't believe you, then they do weird stuff, if they don't really know you, or start ranting about all the terrible stuff you do and how great they are to you, if they know you. I've had girls after being refused try to be seductive that just ended up really cringy. For example, one girl just took off her shirt and bra with her back turned, looked back at me and goes, "Oops, you saw that?" Still a no. I've had a girl come over and put my hand on her vagina. Yeah, okay. Imagine a random guy putting a girl's hand on his dong when she's not in the mood. It's not sexy. I've had girls say things like, "What are you talking about? All guys want sex." I've had girls ask me to watch them fap, which when you're not turned on feels as weird and gross as continuing to watch the rest of a peen video after you've already finished. They end up thinking it's because they're not pretty enough or that I'm not into them, but they can't grasp the idea that I'm just not in the mood. I don't have a huge libido and a lot of my energy goes into work and bettering myself. Yet when I've refused sex and told the girl the truth about it, I get endless shit for it. because that's not how guys are. In my experience, not extrapolating this to every girl ever, a lot of girls have a double standard about girls and guys' feelings when it comes to sex. If a girl doesn't want to have sex with a guy and refuses, she's empowered. If a guy doesn't, there's something wrong with him. Just my experience and 2 cents. I got shoved against a wall and a hand forced down my pants. She bent forward and very loudly said, "Do you want sex to my crotch?" So that's how that feels. I got drugged later that night. My ex-girlfriend showed up at my apartment at 2 AM completely shit-faced, telling me she needed to sleep it off at my house. Being that I didn't want to see her kill herself or someone else driving, I let her crash in my bed and I take the couch. As I am trying to sleep, she wanders out to the living room completely nude, telling me she wants me to come to bed. I tell her that I will absolutely not sleep in bed with her and whatever she had in mind would not be happening. Being that she was not a very rational woman while we were together and she was sober, it escalated to her screaming at me and how I am going to regret denying her. At one point she mentions that unless I come to bed with her, she is going to contact the police and tell them I raped her. I take this time to grab my car keys and leave immediately with her screaming at me all the way down the stairs. I decided to sleep at my dad's and not return to the apartment. Luckily she never tried anything and never contacted me again. Last I heard, she was living across the country. Best comment of the day. A lot of these could be avoided if the guys wouldn't immediately go after drunken party girls. It's like the male equivalent of all men are pigs, no honey, just the ones you're with. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the guys are doing it to themselves on purpose, and there are a few here that are legitimately just random chance and bad luck or the crazy girl, but the ones that start with any form of blah blah, a few drinks, immediately tells me that guy goes for the girls who like to go to bars, like to drink, probably like to party, and therefore enjoy rough and quick play. The guy obviously doesn't realize he keeps going after the same type of girl, or is trying to get away from that type, but keeps ending up with them. Again, not his fault, but it is the male equivalent of how a girl can become accustomed to and attract the diciest dudes in a room. It's not their fault. They're just drawn to certain qualities that are facets with these people, and therefore end up with the same people over and over. Also, yes, rape is a thing. That therapist should have his license revoked, and that dude's friends are dumbasses. All you ever have to ask yourself is, if it were a woman, would it be fine? And if the answer is no, then it isn't fine for men either. They all like to preach equality until they get the shit end of the stick.